Hello and welcome to the history of Star Trek, episode Kor. The Dahar Master Kor, son of Rynar, was a male Klingon officer and ambassador in the 23rd and 24th centuries. He was among the most influential warriors and respected military leaders of the Klingon Empire. Kor was the last son of the House of Kor and descends from the Klingon imperial family. He also had a son. He was descended from Klingons affected with the augment virus created in 2154, product of the 22nd century Klingon genetic engineering. By the 24th century, he was cosmetically indistinguishable from an average Klingon. Throughout his illustrious career, Kor played key roles in many legendary battles against the Federation and the Romulan Empire. Kor's influence in the Empire eventually elevated him to the status of Dahar Master. During his life, he saw the Klingon military changing its name from the Klingon Imperial Fleet to the Klingon Defense Force. Military career. By the 2260s, Kor had achieved the rank of commander and was assigned to a Klingon warship. In 2267, following the breakdown of peace talks between the Federation and the Klingon Empire, a Federation-Klingon war broke out. The neutral planet of Organia, a strategic position between the two powers, became a political hotspot between the Empire and the Federation. On Stardate 3102.7, Commander Kor led a battalion of 500 Klingon soldiers in an invasion and occupation of Organia, where he briefly became their military governor. As governor, Kor ruthlessly maintained order on the planet, ruling with an iron fist, maintaining a stringent list of rules, any violation which was punishable by death. Unknown to Kor at the time, Captain Kirk posing as an Organian, and Lieutenant Commander Spock posing as a dealer in Kivas and Trillium were among the subjected. The two Starfleet officers mounted feigned guerrilla attacks against Kor and his army. Meanwhile, in orbit around Organia, the Klingon and Federation fleets faced each other in battle. Once the hostilities between the two began to reach its climax, all ships suddenly and mysteriously became paralyzed, and all weapons became superheated and temporarily rendered useless. Unknown to both sides at the time, the Organians were in fact an advanced non-corporeal species, despite their primitive way of life. As quickly as it started, the Organians eventually ended the occupation, the war, and Kor's governorship. The Organians continued to promote peace between the two powers by imposing the Organian Peace Treaty. Within 2 years, Kor became the commanding officer of the IKS Korthus. In 2269, Kor again faced his enemy, Captain Kirk, in battle, when the Korthos engaged the USS Enterprise in the Delta Triangle region. During the battle, the two starships became entangled in a time trap, a phenomenon unique to that region, pulling the ships into an alternate universe known as ELSA. Kor attempted to escape, but the Korthos was unable to break free from the region, partly due to its unusual properties, including draining dilithium crystals of their energy. Through cooperation, the crews of the Enterprise and the Korthos were able to formulate a strategy by combining their warp power in an effort to overcome both ships' individual deficiencies. Prior to the attempt, however, Kor had one of his officers, Kali, plant a bomb-like device in the computer room of the Enterprise, set to explode once the starship cleared the phenomenon and reached Warp 8. Both ships were able to escape the region, and the destruction of the Enterprise was averted, moments before the ship reached Warp 8. Nevertheless, Kor claimed responsibility for formulating their combined escape and return to Klingon space, no worse for wear. Kor's ship, the Korthos, was one of the first Klingon vessels equipped with a cloaking device. Kor was said to have spent 3 days in its engine room, taking it apart, studying it before their first mission. This proved critical when he later commanded one of the 2 Klingon divisions on board the Krothos, along with Kang, in an attack against the Federation outpost at Caleb 4. During the attack, Kor successfully tricked his opponents by launching first a small initial attack and then striking with the bulk of his forces when the Federation began repair efforts. Conflict with the Romulans. Kor was involved in several combative engagements with the Romulan Star Empire in 2271. Kor led the Klingon Empire to glorious victory over the Romulans at the legendary Battle of Klok Dak Blak. Kor liked recreating the battle so much that he called it up each time he went into the holodeck. On one occasion, before he went to his quest to kill the albino, he was playing in his holosuite and he got so drunk with the Brashanti ale that Odo had to put him in a holding cell to sleep it off. Later career. Kor, with his fellow warriors Koloth and Kang, held the Korma Pass against Tehang's army in glorious battle in the Trinary star system, where they were forced to fight with the blinding light of 3 suns in their eyes. The battle ended with the mountainside covered with so many dead that there was not a square meter of ground to be seen. They feasted on Tang's heart in celebration of their victory. Kor became a close friend of Curzon Dax, the Federation ambassador to Kronos, in 2289. In one of their escapades, Kor and Dax broke into the Duke's harem. In 2370, when Kor and Jadzia Dax, Curzon's successor, were reunited, Dax knew Kor well enough to recall that he had a scorcher burn on his 14th rib, and that on his left Kavan ached every time his ship went to warp 8. During the late 2280s, a band of depredators, led by the albino, began raiding Klingon colonies. 3 Klingon warships, led by Kor, Koloth, and Kang, were sent out to stop him. Their mission was successful as they captured most of the depredators. However, the albino was able to escape. In the albino's last message to the Klingons, he promised to take his own revenge on the firstborn of each of the 3 captains. Within the space of a few years, he kept his word and managed to inflict the warriors 3 innocent children with the genetic virus that eventually killed them all. The Reckoning. In 2290, Kor, Kang, Koloth, and Curzon Dax pledged a blood oath to avenge the deaths of their Klingon sons, the offense committed by the albino. They nearly caught him at Galone Stary, but one of their subspace messages was intercepted and he once again was able to escape. After decades of searching, Kang learned the whereabouts of the albino in 2370 on the planet Seqirus 4. Kang traveled to Seqirus 4 and discovered his compound. The albino knew immediately of his arrival and invited the trio into a fair fight and one last glorious battle. Kang contacted Kor and Koloth for a rendezvous on Deep Space Nine in preparation of their final attempt to complete their lifelong quest. 3 months later, Kor, Koloth, and Kang, with the aid of Jadzia Dax, prepared their attack on the albino's compound, only to discover it was a trap. Using the element of surprise, they bombarded the compound with tetryon particles, forcing the albino and his sentries into a face-to-face, hand-to-hand combat. Koloth was fatally wounded fighting the albino's personal guard. Following a fierce duel, Kang was able to slay the albino, held at bay by Dax, before he died as well. Having fulfilled their blood oath, both Kang and Koloth died glorious and honorable deaths. Political career. Kor was a member of the Oversight Council for the Klingon Defense Forces when a young Martok attempted to join in 2345. Kor was responsible for striking Martok's names from the officers' list because his family was from the lowlands of Kethra province, and due to his influence, Martok was barred from even enlisting as a common soldier. Martok remained bitter about this incident for nearly 30 years. In early 2372, Kor, with the assistance of Starfleet officers Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax and Lieutenant Commander Worf, launched a quest to find the legendary sword of Kahless in the Gamma Quadrant, using the data collected by the Vulcans. While unknown to them at the time, they were being trailed by Torel, who intended to steal the sword and use it to lead the Empire. Following the successful discovery of the sword, the enormous symbolism of it became a matter of contention between Worf and Kor. After realizing that the sword would only serve to further divide the Klingon Empire rather than reunite it, as the legends foretold, They set the sword adrift in interstellar space. Lost influence. In 2375, Kor, having been long out of favor with Chancellor Gowron and the High Council, was unable to secure his own command. He used his remaining influence to persuade Worf into recommissioning him into the Klingon Defense Forces. With Worf's assistance, Kor was commissioned to serve as the third officer on board the IKS Katane, while they made a daring cavalry raid into Dominion-held space. Unfortunately, during this time, Kor was suffering from frequent lapses in memory and concentration, often losing track of where and when he was. At a critical moment, when both Worf and Martok were incapacitated on the bridge while engaging the Cardassian base on Trekla 5, Kor suffered such a lapse. Kor believed himself to be once again engaging the Federation outpost on Caleb 4, at the side of his long-dead friend Kang. As a result of this lapse, the Kachang was nearly destroyed and the captain and first officer of their sister ship were killed. They were able to escape the system only to discover a fleet of Jemadar fighters pursuing them. Kor was subsequently relieved of duty. His standing on board the ship changed from an honored hero of legend to a pitiful disgrace. As it turned out, Martok took no joy in Kor's humiliation. Martok mentioned this to Worf when discussing the duty roster. Both officers then agreed that they would both be speaking to Gowron to find an assignment for Kor. It was through the experience and bravery of Kor and 6 volunteers that the IKS Ningtao was able to successfully engage the fleet. Realizing that the Jemadar would soon overtake them, Worf had suggested that using the Ningtao to force the enemy out of warp and engage the fleet, intending to lead the attack himself. Before Worf could beam to the doomed ship, however, Kor, secretly informed by Martok's assistant, Drock, stunned him with a hypo spray and took command himself. Before leaving, he promised Worf that when he passed into the halls of the honored dead, he would find Worf's beloved wife, Jadzia Dax, and tell her of Worf's love for her and how he had brought her honor. Kor died pulling off an amazing feat of tactical brilliance while on his last mission. He was able to take charge of the Klingon bird of prey and stall 10 Jemadar ships long enough for the remaining Klingon ships to reach the Starfleet reinforcements located in the Kalander sector. Even General Martok, putting aside his past, toasted the Dahar Master's bravery, noting that Kor had been a noble warrior to the end. Thank you for watching the history of Kor. Special thanks to Memory Alpha for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you already have, then thank you, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.